Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, the automotive industry is going through a significant transformation as it shifts from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, EVs. Revenues for traditional engine components are expected to decline by 44%, while those for EV drivetrains and batteries are projected to rise by 245%. This shift presents a challenge for suppliers as the complexity of traditional engine powertrains with thousands of parts contrasts with the simplicity of EV powertrains. Intricate supply chain is often comprises of small independent family-owned businesses interconnected and dependent on each other's success. Concerns about EV viability, resource availability, and government support create uncertainty. Suppliers must adapt, innovate, and potentially pivot their businesses to thrive in this evolving landscape as the industry moves towards electric vehicles. Now, in this video from CNBC, it outlines how EVs are shaking the car parts supplier industry. So, without further ado, let's get into this video.
The automotive industry was built around engines, but now anyone who makes parts for them is facing a harsh future. Revenues for internal combustion engines and fuel and exhaust systems are all expected to decline 44% through 2027. Meanwhile, revenues for electric drivetrains and batteries or fuel cells are expected to rise 245%. But there is another problem. An internal combustion engine powertrain has about 2,000 parts. Battery electric vehicle powertrains have about 20, sometimes less. Beyond the major automakers, there are actually thousands of parts in cars that come from companies all over the world. A whole branching supply chain of firms, each dependent on the success of the others. Many of those companies are small, family-owned firms that have been around for decades. A typical car contains about 30,000 parts sourced from hundreds of suppliers. In North America alone, there are about 100 suppliers of varying sizes that together generate $500 million or more worth of revenue. Storch Magnetics in Livonia, Michigan is one of those suppliers.
We've been in this building for about 50 years, and the trees that are out front weren't there. When I pull in, I see that, and that's the history for me that makes me excited. It reminds me just how long we've been around, and that we've got a duty, especially in my role as president, to make sure that we can continue.
Today, they are threatened.
And if you can't adapt, then you're going to be, again, on the outside looking in as the industry moves towards battery electric.
Now, this video from CNBC goes into 4 parts. 1, the shift to EVs as you're seeing here. 2, lower demand. 3, volatile times. And 4, industry pivots. We'll not go through all of them because this video is over 60 minutes long. I will leave the link in the description box below. However, we'll be going through some of the points highlighted. Now, they mentioned about the shift from internal combustion engine to electric vehicles and to the complexity challenges for suppliers, as they stated that the combustion engine consists of around over 2,000 parts as compared to electric vehicles that has just about 20 part components, and it represents a significant challenge for the suppliers. The complexity of traditional engine components contrasts starkly with the streamlined nature of EV components, potentially disrupting established supply chains. And mind you, fair use.
Storch was founded in 1952 by Edward Storch. His wife, Ruth, and daughter Marjorie really built the business from the early 60s all the way up until just a few years ago. So we were women-owned and operated, and the ladies really cut their teeth heavily into the automotive sector by selling magnets and magnetic bases to all of the top 3 automotive companies that were here in Detroit at the time. We're involved with lots of different magnetic applications globally. We've done about $7.5 million last year. It was our banner year.
It has about 30 full-time employees. Alexis Zukowski, a welder and fabricator, is one of them.
I'm really into mini bikes and cars and stuff, so it kind of just started at home, and then I went to school at MIAT and learned through their welding program. And then Storch is actually associated with MIAT. And so I applied here and I got the job on the spot.
75 to 80% of its business revolves around serving the automotive industry. About half of its business is in making a machine that is used in the manufacture of internal combustion engines, the magnetic slide conveyor belt. Like so many other companies, Storch's fate is closely tied to the fate of the fuel-burning engine.
Exactly. So uncertainty surrounding EV viability, meaning that so while the transition to electric vehicles is underway, concerns about EV viability, mineral availability for batteries, and the role of government support create uncertainty in the market. The uncertainty has implications for suppliers, as you're seeing here with Storch, as they navigate changes in demand and technology adoption. So, like I said, we're just going to run through this video as fast as possible because it's over 60 minutes long. Let's go to the next concept.
The problems are affecting firms much larger than Storch, even many of the largest publicly traded Tier 1 suppliers, such as Bosch, Denso, Magna, and ZF.
I think that we're in a period now of heavy investment, either through R&D or through M&A. So I think it's actually very difficult to invest in this group. The companies that we like are companies that really don't face this issue at all.
Larger suppliers are pivoting toward EV components.
A lot of these suppliers are uniquely positioned to make them. They already do stamping, and they already have relationships with the OEMs. Some of the products they're making are different, no doubt. But I think that's really the answer for a lot of these suppliers. Now the issue is EVs obviously use less parts than ICEs do, right? So in aggregate, there'll be probably less to feed more mouths, so to speak.
In a traditional internal combustion engine driveline, you've got everything from the radiator back to the rear axle. You've got not just the radiator, there's the motor. And the motor consists of typically a cast iron engine block, there's cast iron heads or aluminum heads. You've got all of the internal combustion engine pieces that are literally hundreds, if not thousands.
So basically, it's going to be massive job losses as you combine the amount of suppliers out there. So this is combined with supplier adaptation and innovation. And this highlights the imperative for suppliers to adapt, innovate, and potentially pivot their businesses to survive in the changing automotive landscapes. So as the industry moves forward, EV suppliers, as you're seeing here, must find ways to remain relevant and explore new opportunities, even considering entirely different product lines, as exemplified by the case of Storage Magnetics ventures into novel products like air filters and magnetic solutions. That is also in the video. I didn't highlight that, but you can check it out in the link below.
That are part of that bill of material. As you advance to the transmission, same sort of scenario, through the drive shaft to the traditional rear end, there's also a lot of gears and a lot of hard metal parts. Most of all of that gets removed in an EV.
In addition, about 70% of the parts in an EV might be different from those in an internal combustion vehicle. That is a big problem if you are a small supplier whose business relies heavily on making a few highly specific components. The size of the transmission market in 2019 was $93 billion. Engine systems reached $73 billion. By 2035, both are expected to be fractions of that. Same with aftertreatment and fuel systems. Automakers frequently launch a new engine family, a group of often several engines with similar traits, to put in the company's different cars and trucks.
But let me interject here. One doesn't understand the complexity and the enormous contribution that one single car can make to a particular household. You're talking about persons who specialize in auto glass repair and removing and replacing, persons who specialize in engine repairs, transmission repairs, brakes only, fuel only, drivetrain parts like removing and replacing shocks, control arms, links, and so to speak. Then you have those who go into detailing. That's a different component. That's why you have so many car washes, automated car washes popped up as a result of a growing automotive sector that employs people and gives so much more to other sectors out there, such as the technological and the financial systems, such as the pay-as-you-go systems and the credit card system that is associated with the credit and debit card system, the banking system that is associated to these automotive car washes, automated car washes rather. Then you have the upholstery, persons who specializes in creating new fancy leather and other interior products for your car. Then you have the accessory market. So the list goes on and on. Then you have your tire suppliers, not to be outdone by them. And if you live here in the north, we have both seasons, all seasons, plus the winter tires. And winter tires are mandatory in certain provinces here in Canada. And the list goes on.
New engineering, new design, new features, and new business for the countless suppliers that make the parts going into it. But that is disappearing. In 2015, there were 15 new automotive engine families launched in North America. By 2025, just 10 years later, there will be only 2. There are even deeper, more profound changes coming to automotive manufacturing.
Battery electric is more than just, hey, we're going to use a battery and electric motor to propel the vehicle. It's given the vehicle industry a chance to rethink how they put cars together. And it's going to have a monumental impact on the supply base.
So that's just another complexity. We're going to move forward again into the video to talk for them to explain something else.
And in some respects for a good part of the vehicle industry.
So we're looking at the volatile
whole global
times here.
auto industry long relied on China as a reliable profit source as the country grew into the world's largest market. But declining sales in 2019 and other factors have put car makers and their suppliers under pressure. Also, in 2019, a labor dispute between General Motors and the United Auto Workers Union dealt a blow to demand in North America. COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, first shutting production down entirely for nearly 2 months and then slowing it for several more. Production fell 20% for the year.
That we had 22 of 27 employees laid off.
Then came all kinds of supply chain shortages, raw materials, semiconductors, and so on. Then Russia invaded Ukraine. Then inflation. Shipping costs saw an unprecedented rise during the pandemic. So did oil prices. Raw material costs shot up. By the end of 2024, hot rolled steel is expected to rise 14%.
The more he talks about this is the more depressing it gets. So we're going to be moving on a little bit more further and talk about 5 ways this shift towards electric vehicles will impact dealerships, particularly their parts department. And 1, the shift in demand for parts. The transition to electric vehicles will lead to a shift in the types of parts that dealerships need to stock. As internal combustion engine components become less relevant, dealerships will need to source and stock more electric drivetrain components, batteries, and related EV parts to meet customer needs. I'm not sure how many needs they're going to be met. However, with the 2035 mandate imposed on a lot of us, then we'll see how that goes. And the simplification of parts is our number 2 choice here, where electric vehicles have fewer moving parts compared to traditional internal combustion engines. This simplification will likely lead to reduced maintenance needs and a decreased demand for traditional engine-related parts, impacting the composition of parts stocked in dealerships' inventory. Let's move on a little bit further to see what else they're highlighting here.
They can switch from serving ICE vehicles to EVs. They can just milk the cash cow dry before shutting down. They can double down, buying competitors, consolidating, and becoming the biggest player in their industry. Or they can sell out. Storch Magnetics is leaning into some other areas where it is strong.
The biggest growth opportunity for us is to continue to double down and to continue to offer the expertise that we've had over all these years to other manufacturers that are looking to incorporate a magnet into their product. They're not just magnets, there's more to it. There's heat, there's shock and vibration and all sorts of things that many manufacturers don't know. And to eliminate the potential for recall.
And this is what great minds do. We innovate and create as we go along. But continuing also in the dealership, apologies for trying to integrate so much more because we have so little time. Training and expertise will play a definite part in this as well, because dealership staff, especially in the parts department, will need to undergo training and understand the intricacies of electric vehicle components and systems, and they will need to be well versed in the new technology to effectively assist customers, provide accurate information, and recommend the right parts for EV maintenance and repairs.
That's where we shine. We're able to do third-party testing and make sure that the magnets that come from mills in China are exactly what they're expecting.
But the company is also testing out new ideas. They have several products.
If you're going to survive, you have to be creative. You have to be innovative. But you can't let it overtake your business. That's been a hard lesson for us here, and me in particular, as I've come up through the rankings here at Storch. The biggest pivot that we've had here at Storch was creating an entirely new brand and a division of this company.
During the COVID-19 pandemic,
and this is a significant move to integrate new suppliers, as a shift towards electric vehicle might introduce new suppliers into the automotive industry due to the different nature of EV components. As Storch is explaining here, dealerships parts department will need to establish relationships with these new suppliers and to ensure a smooth supply chain for EV parts. We're going to go a little bit further more into this video because it's coming to an end, so let's continue.
A way to keep the dust from the shop out of the building's front office.
Being magnet people, we decided that we would create a filter and an apparatus that would stick to the ceiling. Real simple design. And as the people came back that were laid off from COVID, they asked to have it above their head for the COVID reasons.
They've also developed SuperMag. It's a magnet put on the front of a truck that is used to pull iron and metal off of a road surface. The pitch is that it will save people from tire blowouts, especially at high speed.
Departments of transportation are buying these magnets now from us, and they're driving over the road surfaces. By keeping all that metal debris up, most road agencies report back that within the first months that the magnet has paid for itself, just in the cost of tires to that one vehicle. The impact that they make to that region is something that no one's been able to put numbers to yet.
The company also came up with an especially offbeat idea.
I had an employee come to me and he wanted to buy a fishing magnet. He'd seen it online, wanted to do it with his son.
This isn't a magnet for catching fish. It is a magnet for fishing pieces of metal out of waterways. So the company set the employee up with a magnet and a rope, and then got the idea of building a submersible that could do underwater what SuperMag does on roads.
I don't know that we fully understand who the customer is for that product yet. I think that potential customers in the future will be large areas like Daytona Beach or Myrtle Beach in Florida. It would be the larger municipal.
And the final one is that this will have a significant impact on the revenue stream, meaning that the projected decline in demand for traditional engine components and the rise of EV-related parts will impact dealerships' revenue streams. Dealerships will need to strategize and adjust their pricing and service models to account for these changes and potentially explore new revenue streams. Storch is doing just that, as you're seeing here, and such as offering installation and maintenance services for EV specific components. They went ahead, revamped their whole operations in preparation for the EV space. Dealerships must also try to move with the ever-changing times as the automotive industry is ever evolving. But again, people are going to be left there on the sidelines because only the strongest will survive, and the minds that are willing to innovate and move with the times are the ones who will be able to move forward.
Questions around the viability of EVs don't deliver simple or certain answers. The Automobile Association of America, or AAA, surveyed about 1,000 people in 2022 on electric cars. 60% of them were still concerned about the relatively high price of EVs, worried there are not enough places to charge, and fretted about running out of battery while driving, among other things. There are other concerns about the availability of the minerals needed to make the batteries, about the longevity of the batteries and the cost of replacing them, about how well EVs can compete without government support.
Looking back at solar.
As the world turns, so the problems continue. Let me know your thoughts below. Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It'll only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.